Welcome in the fifth section of our course, Generative Adversarial Networks, and also it applies to deep learning. At the beginning we'll be creating data generator for GAN, next we'll be adding discriminator for our data, we'll create a classifier for generated data, and finally we'll perform validation of our model. This is a first video in which we'll be creating data generator for GAN. So we'll start from analyzing labeled input news data. We'll be looking at the test set and looking at the training set. So this is our class that is called classify news into categories. Our task is fairly simple. We want to load data from news data and then classify every news into some classes. But important factor here is that we don't know the classes up front. If you remember from the chapter 1, we had a data that was able to classify text from business domains. And our data that was used to train model was labeled. So we have a label finance, we have a label health and science. So leveraging that information, we were able to create a model that had data that was already pre-trained. So we know a lot about data upfront. Here is a different story. So let's start from the trained data set. We can see that we have some lines and every line is a news. So for example, first news is woman burned to death by husband. So this is not fairly thing, but we can see that there is a lot of news and some of them are positive and some of them are negative. But that data is not labeled. So labeled data means that it, for example, will be neg and it could be like positive, right? But in this example, we don't have that data. So that burden of labeling data needs to be done by the deep learning neural network. And this is very important because it can speed up the machine learning process substantially. If we will have a lot of news, as we can see, we have first folder with thousands of news, second data also thousands and so on. So if the human will need to read every news and label it somehow, it can take days to finish. But we can fortunately write a code that is able to infer from those news and try to classify them based on the specific meaning of the text. So we will vectorize every news into feature vector, and then our model will be able to classify similar things into similar classes. So it will be leveraged using the deep learning network problem. So we can see that we are creating a class path resource and loading news data, and this will be our user directory. Also, we need to have a data path and vector path. So data path is the user directory plus labeled news. So this is the outer directory, and also we have news word vector. So this is important part of our program because we need to transform those newses, because as you remember from natural language processing, this data is fairly meaningless for deep learning network. We need to transform it into feature vector of numbers, and we will be doing that in the next video.